So I'm Lola Young, and obviously I'm chair of the Ondaatje Prize for this year, which has been really great experience. And of course, we're always very grateful that it's well supported by the Ondaatje family. So just wanted to make sure that, you know, everything's okay with you, and say that on behalf of myself and the other judges, Helen Mort and Adam Rutherford, we very much enjoyed your book. And actually, we're delighted to inform you that you are this year's winner of the £10,000 RSL Ondaatje Prize.
Oh my God! Wow! Oh my goodness! That's incredible! Wow! I thought we were just here to have a little chat. Oh my goodness! Wow! Thank you so much. Oh my God! Wow!
Are you pleased?
Slightly, yeah. I'm flabbergasted. I was not expecting that at all. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. That is really.
Oh, you know, and I can personally say that I'm a great fan of thrillers with a bit of historic component, and that sort of era that you look at. Although it's recent history, it's almost like, certainly on mainland Britain, it's like we've all forgotten about it, that period, what happened, you know, the whole BSE thing. So it was very interesting to me, having lived through that and having these searing memories, to read your book. And you also managed to introduce kind of humor into it, which is a great feat.
I'm so glad to hear that. Sorry, I'm still like I'm reeling slightly. Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird thing to write, because, and even talking about it, like, obviously it's not historical fiction, because like it wasn't that long ago and like I was alive, but it may as well have been, because like, you know, I was 8 in 1996, so like I remember not eating hamburgers for a while, I guess, but like in terms of what was going on more broadly, and just up the road, yeah, you know, I'm from Dublin, so just up the road along the border and all that kind of stuff, I basically had no idea, because I was a kid and I was so sheltered from it all. So yeah, I almost had to do as much research as if the book had been set 100 years ago or beyond. So it's quite a weird, yeah, I never know what the definition is of like what counts as historical fiction as we kind of traditionally think of it. So
yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, the thing is to have a cracking great read, and that's what you've done. But I'm really interested, as you say, because you said you were about 8 when all of that was going on. What made you focus on that particular era, if you like, or that particular set of circumstances when?
Yeah, I think
when you were so young to start with.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a dual thing. The book kind of, I don't know, it's so funny, after you write a book, you kind of have to reverse engineer its origin story, because it's not always a straightforward thing. So then when people ask you this question, you're like, how did I come to write this book? So part of it was that I was really interested in writing a book that kind of explored this tension between kind of tradition and modernity in Ireland, because I think like in the 90s and the thousands. And even now, I still think there's like this really curious tension between us being like a pretty progressive modern country, but also still having these superstitions and traditions and rituals that are, you know, feel like pagan almost. So I was really interested in that. And then more specifically, I went on a road trip a few years ago with a friend, and his father was a farmyard vet. And he just started telling me all these funny stories of like things that his father had seen over the years, and especially around the time of the BSE crisis and some of the just mad stuff that was going on. And I was like, how do I not know about this? This is like the stuff of you know, gangster films, or like, you know, the stuff of books that I was like, well, I'm just going to steal that. So I think those two things I was then interested in, like, could I combine all these elements, and that took some figuring out. But yeah, that's kind of where the butchers came from.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because for me there was a level of kind of, there was the, as it was, supernatural horror, the kind of mythic dimensions of it, but then there was the reality of the horror of that. And you know, on a very personal level, I mean, I've been vegetarian for donkey's years, you know, for way before BSE. So it's like that kind, for me, there was that certain kind of horror associated with butchering for consumption, and the violence that is kind of nestling there with the sort of toxic masculinity alongside very tender and sort of loving moments. So perfect combination.
Yeah, it's so funny actually that I would say the number one question that I get asked about the book is, ooh, I'm a vegetarian, will I like it? So I'm always like, yes, I really hope so. I don't think your like eating preferences or beliefs have to impact on whether or not you'll enjoy the book. But yeah, I think that whole, you know, the animals and bodies and blood, and as you said, toxic masculinity, and this kind of looming sense of threat between the BSE and, you know, the troubles in the north are still, you know, it's the very, very tail end, but there, you know, there's violence, there's tension in the air. So all of that, I think, creates for kind of like a simmering undertone, or at least that was the intention.
It absolutely works. So well, I've got nothing else to say except for congratulations again. And you know, it's a shame, obviously, that we can't do these things in a face-to-face situation. But this is great to be able to do this. It's wonderful to see it was wonderful to see your face. You'll be really glad that this was recorded, this moment. You could keep a copy of the film for your archive, for your personal archive.